giving us his word, which we can keep, and we can do, and we can follow, and we will be blessed by doing it. So join me. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctifies us with thy commandments, and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of the Torah. And Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzavanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Now we have the race to get there first. Do I need to do that next time?
I just push buttons.
You just push buttons?
Yeah. So
I'm not going to be here
for
next
pushing a
weekend.
button.
We're going to the farm. I'm going under protest because of the time of the year.
We're not gonna be here either next week.
You go under protest whatever time of the year it is.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I know, but I just wanted you to
It
know.
just seems like it.
I think I might want to be here then.
Maybe you should be there.
Somebody's gotta be here, the roads are gonna be gone, so.
Oh dear. We may just have to shut down, I don't know. The important ones are leaving.
Okay, what happened last week in the book of Numbers?
Counted.
Now they counted the tribes a couple times, counted the Levites, counted everybody. Okay, and what's happening this time? Lift up comes from the first word in the second verse in Hebrew, so, which could literally be translated to say, lift up the heads of the sons of Gershon. It's an idiomatic way of saying, make an accounting of the sons of Gershon. This is the Torah portion, finishes up the census of the Levites that was underway at the end of the Torah, of the previous Torah portion. Before going on to discuss the purification of the camp, the ritual for a woman suspected of adultery, the laws of the Nazirite vow, the priestly benediction, and the gifts of the heads of the 12 tribes brought to the dedication of the altar. It's the one that Beverly likes to read best. Right on you. Now I have this in here from last year, a year ago. Y'all remember what the Mishnah means? Mishnah? It's a study of the verb shana in Hebrew, to study and review. It's the first major written collection of the Jewish oral tradition known as the Oral Torah. It is also the first major work of rabbinic literature.
Shana means year, doesn't it? Doesn't that mean year? Like a yearly study?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then there's Perkei Avot, which translated to English as chapters of the fathers. But it could also mean what's this say? Ethical teachings of the fathers. Because of its content, the name is sometimes given Ethics of the Fathers is a part of the Mishnah. So how do they derive ethics of the fathers?
Probably the Talmud, isn't it?
Well, it's their oral tradition. It says their fathers passed this down to them. And a lot of times they put more weight on the Talmud, the oral Torah, than they did what God's word actually says. So we'll start with number 1. The Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, take the sons of Gershon also by their fathers' houses and by their clans. From 30 years old up to 50 years old, you shall list them. All who can come to do duty, to do service in the tent of meeting. This is the service of the clans of the Gershonites. In serving and hearing burdens, they shall carry the curtains of the tabernacle and the tent of meeting with its covering and the covering of goat skin that is on top of it, and the screen for the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the hangings of the court, and the screen for the entrance of the gate of the court that is around the tabernacle and the altar. and their cords, and all the equipment for the service. And they shall do all that needs to be done with regard to them. All the service of the sons of the Gershonites shall be at the command of Aaron and his sons, in all that they are to carry and in all that they have to do. And you shall assign their charge all that they are to carry. This is the service of the clans of the sons of the Gershonites in the tent of meeting, and their guard duty is to be under the direction of Ithamar, the son of Aaron, the priest. As for the sons of Merari, you shall list them by their clans and their fathers' houses, from 30 years old up to 50 years old. You shall list them, every one who can come on duty to do the service of the tent of meeting. And this is what you are to charge. They are charged to carry as the whole of their service in the tent of meeting, the frames and of the tabernacle with its bars, pillars, and bases, and the pillars around the court and their bases, pegs and cords, there with all the equipment and all their accessories. And you shall list by name the objects that they are required to carry. This is the service of the clans of the sons of Merari, the whole of their service in the tent of meeting, under the direction of Ithamar, the son of Aaron, the priest. And Moses and Aaron and the chiefs of the congregation listed the sons of the Kohathites by their clans and their fathers' houses, from 50 years old up to 50 years old, everyone who could come on duty for the service in the tent of meeting. And those listed by clan were 2,750. Islamic hair.
Absolutely.
What does the word Nazarite have in connection with the word Nazareth? Does it have anything? It's a trick question. No, they are different words. The word Nazir from Nazar, which means to consecrate, whereas the word Nazarene comes from the word netzer, branch, or from the verb meaning to guard or watch. So a lot of he presumably drank wine.
Yeah.
So he couldn't have been a Nazarite. But he may have taken a Nazarite vow at some point in time. It just doesn't say he did. When the tabernacle was completed, the princes of the tribes brought gifts to the Levites. What were the gifts and who received them? Y'all, I know we hadn't read it yet, but I just want to ask the question.
I want to start thinking about it before we got there.
Before we get there. They gave 6 covered wagons, 12 oxen, and they were divided among the Gershonites and the Merarites, but not the Kohathites. Mm-hmm. Wagons and oxen. Well, they had to carry all the stuff. They had wagons to put the stuff on.
Yeah.
But the Kohathites did not receive gifts because they were required to carry the sacred objects. In other words, the tents and all that kind of stuff they put on wagons and carry. But the candelabra, the menorah, and all those things inside. Number 2. Is number 2 long?
I don't know.
No, it's short. I can read it really.
You just talk louder, Tommy.
Do what?
You talk louder.
Talk louder?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Tommy?
They can't see you still.
Those listed of the sons of Gershon by their clans and by their fathers' houses from 30 years old up to 50 years old, everyone who could come on duty for service in the tent of meeting. Those listed by their clans and their fathers' houses were 2,630. This was the list of the clans of the sons of Gershon, all who served in the tent of meeting, whom Moses and Aaron listed according to the command. Those listed of the clans of the sons of Merari by their clans and their fathers' houses from 30 years old up to 50 years old, everyone who could come on duty for service in the tent of meeting. Those listed by clans were 3,200. This is the list of the clans of the sons of Merari, whom Moses and Aaron listed according to the commandment of the Lord by Moses. All those who were listed of the Levites, whom Moses and Aaron and the chiefs of Israel listed by their clans and their fathers' houses, from 30 years old up to 50 years old, everyone who could come to do the service of the ministry and the service of bearing burdens in the tent of meeting. Those listed were 8,580. according to the commandment of the Lord, through Moses, they were listed, each one with his task of serving or caring. Thus they were listed by him as the Lord commanded Moses. So, how many were counted from the three families within the age range? You can see it right there. 8,580. 2,630 Gershonites, 2,750 Kohathites, and 3,200 Merarites. What were the three camps of Israel? Y'all know what the three camps of Israel were? The tabernacle was the central camp. It was surrounded by the fourfold camps of the Levites, who were surrounded by the fourfold camps of the 12 tribes. Outside the camp were livestock and the ritually unclean. So those were three camps. You could say that there was 12 camps, but there was 4 camps of the 12 tribes. You know, they each had Judah was on the east side and so forth. I've got a cool picture I'm going to show you about it in a little while. I'm not going to show it now. Okay, number 3. It's another story. I can read it short. The Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, "Command the people of Israel that they put out of the camp everyone who is leprous or has a discharge, and everyone who is unclean through contact with the dead. You shall put out both male and female, putting them outside the camp, that they may not defile the camp, in the midst of which I dwell." And the people of Israel did so, and put them outside the camp, as the Lord said to Moshe. So the people of Israel did. And the Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel, when a man or a woman commits any of the sins of the people commit by breaking faith with the Lord, and that person realizes his guilt, he shall confess his sin that he has committed, and he shall make full restitution for his wrong, adding a fifth to it and giving it to him to whom he did the wrong. But if a man has no next of kin to whom restitution may be made for the wrong, restitution for the wrong shall go to the Lord for the priest, in addition to the ram of atonement with which the atonement is made for him. And every contribution at the holy donation, all the holy donation of the people of Israel, which they bring to the priest, shall be his. Each one shall keep his holy donations. Whatever anyone gives to the priest shall be his." So, what was Moses told to do? Those who were unclean for an issue of blood or something like that, or they had contact with the dead. So, if you had a death in the family, once you did that, you had to go outside the camp for how long? What did you have to do to get restitution from the dead?
You washed,
You washed and then you were clean.
Yeah.
That's right. But you had to go outside the camp and do all that stuff. What were the people required to do before the desert journey began? Y'all remember? They had to confess their sins, make full restitution plus a fifth, and offer a guilt offering for atonement. In other words, everybody had to get their mind right. if y'all haven't seen Cool Hand Luke,
what we have here is failure to communicate.
Failure to communicate, that's right.
Man, well,
Why is the confession, the dewey, mentioned in connection with stealing? Because all manner of sin is essentially stealing from God. In other words, anything you do, if you say God's commandment isn't right anymore, what are you doing? You're calling God a liar. You're stealing His dignity.
you're going after other gods.
Yeah, but you're taking God's dignity away. In other words, if you say anything that defames God or do anything from God, you are that's a grave sin, just like stealing. You see, the proverb says, keep me from stealing, that I do not profane your name. In other words, why is stealing profaning God's name?
Because you're saying that he's not.
Yeah,
not
because
to-
you're not depending on him for your provision. In other words, if you steal, then you're saying, well, God's not providing for me, so I'm going to have to go steal from somebody. That's as simple as it gets. What are the basic steps of repentance? Do y'all know the basic steps? I think it's kind of neat. Acknowledge the sin, oral confession. You say, okay, I was wrong. Regret the misdeed. Resolve not to do it again. Don't repeat it. Restitution to the person's harmed. Apologizing for the harm caused. Asking for forgiveness. So there are 3 Hebrew terms that are synonyms. They're selakah, melakah, and keparah. Selakah, usually translated as forgiveness, is the first step which must be taken if someone has committed a sin, whether it be against God or against man. To ask for forgiveness is to say to the injured party, I am sorry for what I did, I sincerely regret having done it, and I will not do it again. The appropriate response to this request is to believe that the petitioner is sincere for him or her to come in. A person who refuses to do this is considered a cruel person. Melakah, translated as wiping away, is the response to the request. Can we put our relationship back on the level which it was before I sinned against you? A positive response to this is difficult, but within the godly powers given, the human being is required to do it. In other words, if someone comes to you and begs for forgiveness, you should forgive them. I mean, God forgives. And he says, be holy as I am holy. It's not an unjust requirement. Kaparah, where does that come from? Kapur, atonement. It's usually translated as atonement. The response to the person who says, my conscience will not let me live with myself because of what I did to you and our relationship. To respond positively to this is beyond human capacity. It is only God who can reach inside a person and say, be comforted. Kaparah is the climax of the 3-part process and is accomplished through Yeshua. You believe that? That, if Yeshua died for our sins and we rely on him, we rely on God and his forgiveness, and it's by faith that we get this, then if we expect atonement, forgiveness, then we have to be ready and prepared to forgive others. And all through the scripture, even in the Old Testament, it said before you bring your sacrifice, if you have anything between you and your brother, go and get that taken care of. Then come back and let me take care of you. But you have a responsibility between yourself and the people that you live around, who you talk to, how you represent yourself. And yeah, it's serious business. It's serious business. A lot of times we don't consider it serious business, but it's serious business of how we treat each other and the consequences of it.
Well, Yeshua said if you don't forgive, you won't be forgiven.
That's right. Number 4. Number 4, number 3.
Just
Now that was a long one, Sharon. I think it's yours.
Okay. I'm not used to reading. And the Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the people of Israel. If any man's wife goes astray and breaks faith with him, if a man lies with her sexually and it is hidden from the eyes undetected, though she has defiled herself, gracious to you, the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So shall they upon the people of Israel, and I will bless them.
Thank you.
Yes.
So what's the procedure if a man suspected his wife of infidelity?
Take her to the priest and have her drink the bitter water.
Take her to the priest with a plain barley offering called a grain offering of jealousy. The priest would take the holy water, put it in a cup, and mix it with the dust of the tabernacle floor to make it bitter water. Then he would write on a scroll a curse that described the woman's punishment, written with the sacred name of God, and then immersed it in the water so that the words of the oath dissolved in the cup. The woman then was given the option of confessing her sin or affirming her innocence by saying amen to the curse. If she insisted on her innocence, she was forced to drink the waters. If she was guilty, she and her lover would die in a painful death. Doesn't mention anything about the lover, does it?
No.
But if she were innocent, God would vindicate her with a future child and an easy childbirth. Her lover comes from Jewish tradition, said that even though she was tried, that her husband would be found, her lover would be found guilty also.
I wonder what a jealous woman gets to do.
Hmm?
What does a jealous woman get to do?
Nothing.
Good question.
So why do you think God allowed his name to be dissolved in the water of the sota to drink? This is Jewish tradition answer.
That is mixed.
Even God allows his name to be dishonored for the sake of the peace between husband and wife.
Wow.
From where did the priest get the water? It says holy water. Where do you think he got the water?
Okay.
From the bronze basin. In other words, where they washed, in other words, the water that they put.
And then drink it.
Hmm?
Okay.
It'd be much worse with the dirt and everything else.
I know, but the whole thing was kind
So,
She had to wait till after they burned the barley off, you know, so you had that time to think about it before she had to
Yeah.
get the water.
So, why is the law of the Nazir, the Nazarite, written just before the priestly blessing? So we have all the stuff that the Nazarite has to do: shave his head, not drink any wine or eat grapes or even the seeds or the skin, all that stuff. Couldn't touch dead bodies, so forth. So a Nazir separated himself in consecration to God by avoiding things that lead to vanity. Therefore, he will be rewarded with the blessings of the Rekat Kohanim, the priestly blessing. So, what is the purpose of a Nazarite vow?
to be holy unto God.
Separate yourself.
You separate yourself and to be a. Why did Paul take the Nazarite vow? And did he take one or two others?
To show that he walked according to the law, and did not do the things that he was accused of.
That's right. He was saying, I'm setting myself apart, affirming God's commandments, and I want everybody to know that I'm not preaching against God's law. I'm preaching against the corruption of God's law. You know that forgiveness and faith come by belief, and the result of that is your fruit. In other words, when you believe and you turn your life around, you keep God's commandments, because then you can produce good fruit. Can you produce good fruit if you don't keep God's commandments?
No.
No.
You paid for two other people. So you can answer that now.
Okay. So why must the Nazir not cut their hair? And what was finally done with it?
Burned underneath.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think they had to cut their hair,
of, they didn't cut their hair.
or why they did cut their hair? Why
At
was,
the end of their hair.
no,
They proved that they
at the beginning they shaved their head. And then they didn't cut their hair for the entire time, and at the end, then they cut their hair and burned it.
Maybe true, they didn't have mitzvot.
To indicate the disinterest in the pursuit of physical beauty,
Oh,
but only the inward soul. The hair was later shorn off and burned upon the altar with his peace offering. So he started the Nazir started by cutting his hair off and, you know, being shorn, and he ended the same way. You know, that's what, you know, that's why you know, marriages between a lot of people that are rushed into don't last because they don't know the person. You know, if you don't know somebody, it's hard to determine that you want to be with them the rest of your life. And you know, unfortunately, sometimes you never get to know somebody really until you're married to them. Sadly. So how is being seduced, led astray, similar to going insane? Y'all ever thought about that?
Insane?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I put this in here. I just listened to a guy, David Wood. Y'all remember David Wood? He's the psychopath that became a Christian. But the guy is brilliant.
He is.
I mean, if you listen to him, he talks about, he said, if you think about these things, if you think about why are we here, is there a God, how do all these things line up? And he says if you can't accept that there is a God that created everything, that there is order in the universe, that you know, why are there numbers? Why is there air? Why do they have these properties? You know, how does the sun a certain size, the earth is a certain distance from it, it's tilted at a specific angle so that it gets the right amount of heat, and everything is lined up for life on this world. And you know, he goes through all these things, and he says, now if you reject that and you try to reason out, he said, you will drive yourself crazy. He said, now, if you're not a reasonable person and you just want to reject it, he said, you won't go crazy. He said, you're just going to live a bad life. He said, but if you sit down and think about these things, he said, only God makes sense in the world. He said, there cannot be good and evil without God, because without God, there is no good and evil. You know, if I'm a cannibal and I'm hungry, I kill and eat you. There's nothing wrong with that. He said, only God gives meaning to the world. And he said, and if you can't rationalize that, then you go crazy. So when we're led astray by false teachers, it makes us crazy. I mean, when you can't rationalize what the scripture actually says, and you try to live your life by not doing it or doing what you think without doing what it says, then you're being led astray. So the rabbis justify putting a fence around the Torah. How do they do it? Their justification is the fermented drink of the Nazarenes and the grapes. They said, you know, God put this fence around the Nazarite that they couldn't do this certain thing, but it indicates that you shouldn't do strong drink, but it only points out grapes. It doesn't say you couldn't, you know, ferment
honey.
whatever and make, you know, cider, you know, other alcoholic beverages. It's implied, but it's not specified. So one of their justifications is the Nazarite vow, that you can put a fence around things. I don't know that that's true or not.
Although probably well intended.
That's
The
right.
road to hell is paved with good intentions.
That's right. I say, I've been on that road. Had some good intentions that were just completely not valid.
Well maintained too, doesn't have potholes or anything.
That's right.
Or traffic light.
Stuff like
Yeah. So why was Aaron chosen to confer the blessing of peace?
because of Moses' original objection that he couldn't talk. Is it that deal?
Well, Aaron, it says Aaron was a man known as a man who loved peace, pursued peace, and created peace between man and one of the justifications is that the reason that Aaron built the golden calf is because he wanted to maintain peace in the camp. And so he said, well, if I can just do this for them, maybe I can maintain peace until God intervenes. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it doesn't say that, but it says, you know, tradition holds that Aaron was a peacemaker. So, what is the...
The difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper.
Yeah.
He probably didn't want to be killed because they wanted to make an apple.
Now here's the one that's interesting. How do the priests bless the people today in most synagogues? Anybody been in the synagogue and seen the priestly blessing? They remove their shoes and have their hands ritually washed by a Levite, if present. They then ascend to the stand, the bema, before the ark, while each one covers his head and arms with a talit, a prayer shawl, while each privately recites a blessing. When the cantor says Kohanim, each priest raises his hands with his palms facing downward and his thumbs outstretched, touching, while singing the 15 words of Numbers 6:24 through 26. That's kind of interesting,
I bet
isn't
they
it?
don't say Yahweh, Yahweh. I bet they say Adonai when they do that. But I don't know.
You think so?
I don't know. I've never been
I
there.
don't
I don't know.
I don't know. I think they only say Yahweh or Yehovah on the Day of Atonement.
Yeah.
Isn't that correct? So why is the Nazir similar to the high priest? Why is it they can't have contact with dead people? That's kind of the thing that ties them together. How could Samson have been a Nazir and touch a corpse?
Samson made his own rules.
I don't know.
Okay, the Jewish tradition holds that there was the Nazir Shimshon, which means some sort of exemption from that restriction. In other words, he killed 1,000 Philistines with a jawbone of a donkey. So here is, okay, here. That up there. Cross. Why did God want the priest to bless the people in His name?
Because only his name is holy.
Well, you know, it's kind of a threefold blessing. God gave them the honor of confessing and blessing upon the people in His name as repayment for the people's care of the Levites, just as they needed support, so Israel needed their blessing. So, in today's connotation, need God's blessing. We need to confer God's blessing on our children, but we need His blessing in our lives. So, the text of the priestly blessing, 3 parts, and each one starts out, Yahweh bless you and keep you. In other words, it says, what does bless? God set you apart and help you to stay set apart. And then Yahweh make His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. So what does shine His face on you and be gracious to you? Transgressions. You know, keep me holy and set apart when I confess my sin. And the Lord lift up His face upon you and give you peace. So what's the connotation of lift up your face? It's kind of like when you lift up your child. When you pick them up, you're lifting them up and shining your face on them. That's what God is doing. He's saying, I love you and I give you my peace. Now, when Jesus ascended in Acts, or in Luke, I'm sorry, when he ascended into heaven, when he had the disciples there, what does it say in Luke 24, 50 to 53? And he led them out as far as Bethany, and lifting up his hands, he blessed them. While he blessed them, he parted from them and was carried into heaven. And they worshipped him and returned to Jerusalem with great joy. Mm-hmm. So the goal of the blessing is God's peace. Undoubtedly, Yeshua recited the priestly blessing over his disciples when he descended, because he lifted up his hands in the manner of the blessing and blessed them when he left. You know, he probably said, Yahweh bless you and keep you. May he shine his face on you and be gracious to you, lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So, what's the significance of the blessing in your life? You know, it's
The desire to chase after his word.
yeah. You know, one of the things that got me is, and I think it was Brad Scott that said this. He said, you know, in Jewish families, on the eve of Shabbat, on Friday evening, the family gathers, they light candles, and then the father says the priestly blessing over each one of his children. Every Shabbat. Blesses their children. And then he said this, which kind of hit me between the eyes, is there any wonder that there's magnificent Jewish children in the world that are being doctors, lawyers, and upholding the world through God's commandments? Because they are blessing their children continuously. You know, and would our lives have been different if we would have been blessed by our fathers every Shabbat?
I guarantee it would have been.
Yeah, I think so.
Instead of cutting them down and berating them,
Okay, we're ready for number 5. Would you read number 5, please, Zoe? Because it's long too.
In the day when Moshe had finished setting up the tabernacle and had anointed and consecrated it with all its furnishings, and had anointed and consecrated the altar with all its utensils, the chiefs of Israel, heads of their fathers' houses, who were the chiefs of the tribes, who were over those who were listed, approached and brought their offerings before the Lord, 6 wagons and 12 oxen, a wagon for every 2 of the chiefs, and for each one an ox. They brought them before the tabernacle. Then the Lord said to Moshe, accept these from them, that they may be used in the service of the tent of meeting, and give them to the Levites, to each man according to his service. So Moshe took the wagons and the oxen and gave them to the Levites. 2 wagons and 4 oxen he gave to the sons of Gershon, according to their service. 4 wagons and 8 oxen he gave to the sons of Merari, according to their service, under the direction of Itamar, the son of Aharon, the priest. But to the sons of Kohath he gave none, because they were charged with the service of the holy things that had to be carried on shoulder. And the chiefs offered offerings for the dedication of the altar on the day it was anointed, and offered their offering before the altar. And the Lord said to Moshe, they shall offer their offerings, 1 chief each day, for the dedication of the altar. He who offered his offering the first day was Nachshon, the son of Amminadab, and of the tribe of Judah. And his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Nahshon, the son of Amminadab. On the second day, Nethanel, the son of Zuar, the chief of Issachar, made an offering. He offered for his offering 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Nethanel, the son of Zuar. On the third day, Eliab, the son of Helon, the chief of the people of Zebulun, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 100 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with an oil for grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Eliab, the son of Helon. On the fourth day, Elazur, the son of the people of Reuvim, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Elazur, the son of Shadur. On the 5th day, Shelumiel, the son of Shaddai, the chief of the people of Simeon, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, male lambs a year old. This was the offering of El, the son of
I'm going to read number 6 because it just goes on. On the 6th day, Elisaph, the son of Deuel, the chief of the people of Gad, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Eliasaph, the son of Deuel. On the 7th day, Elishama, the son of Ammihud, the chief of the people of Ephraim, His offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin, 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offering, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Elishama, of the son of Ammihud. On the 8th day, Gamaliel, the son of Pedasur, the chief of the people of Manasseh, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offering, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Gamaliel, the son of Pedasur. On the 9th day, Abidan, the son of Gidoni, the chief of the people of Benjamin, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 10 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels, full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offering, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Abidan, the son of Gideoni. On the 10th day, Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai, the chief of the people of Dan, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin, 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour, mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish, 10 shekels full of incense, 1 bull for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams. Did I already say that this was the offering of Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai?
There's a typo.
So, how many animals did they sacrifice?
It's a whole bunch.
A whole mess of them.
Well, they did 12 bowls, 12 basins, 12 ladles, 30 each bowls, 72 rams, 72 sheep, 72 male goats, and each prince brings his offering on a different day.
And I noticed they weren't in order.
No, they weren't in order. Why does the Torah teach that they repeat the offering over and over and over again? The same thing, over and over again.
So I get it.
These things are important.
They were important. It's important to remember that they did it on separate days, but they offered the same thing. But each tribe was considered separate and holy. Let's read number.
Inventory.
Would you read number 7?
On the 11th day, Pagiel, the son of Okran, the chief of the people of Asher, his offering was 1 silver plate whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old, for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Pagiel, the son of Okran. On the 12th day, Ahirah, the son of Enan, the chief of the people of Naphtali, his offering was 1 silver plate, whose weight was 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, both of them full of fine flour mixed with oil, for a grain offering, 1 golden dish of 10 shekels full of incense, 1 bull from the herd, 1 ram, 1 male lamb a year old, for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Ahirah, the son of Enan. This was the dedication offering for the altar on the day when it was anointed, for the chiefs of Israel, 12 silver plates, 12 silver basins, 12 golden dishes, each silver plate weighing 130 shekels, and each basin 70. All the silver of the vessels, 2,400 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. The 12 golden dishes full of incense, weighing 10 shekels apiece, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. All the gold of the dishes being 120 shekels. All the cattle for the burnt offering, 12 bulls, 12 rams, 12 male lambs a year old with their grain offering, and 12 male goats for a sin offering, and all the cattle for the sacrifice of peace offerings, 24 bulls, the rams 60, the male goats 60, the male lambs a year old 60. This was the dedication offering for the altar after it was anointed. And when Moshe went into the tent of meeting to speak with the Lord, he heard the voice speaking to him from above the mercy seat that was on the ark of the testimony, from between the two cherubim, and it spoke to him.
It spoke to him. You know, the camp, I've been interested in the camp, so I had this picture here of the camp. And, you know, if you take the numbers of the tribes around the camp, there was somewhere north of 100,000 in each camp. And then if you take all the women and children, there's like the city of Amarillo on each side of the camp. But down on the middle where the priestly tribe, the Levites are, there was like Pampa on each side of the camp. You know, 20,000 people around the camp. The smallest part was where Moses and the Kohathites were, out in the front. But I mean, still.
There's people outside the camp too.
I mean, if you look at it, kind of stretch it out,
Well,
you can see way out there is Dan, Naphtali, Benjamin, Ephraim. Back around on the sides you can't see. But I mean, it's a huge area. It says, the book of Numbers describes the layout of the encampment during the 40 years in the wilderness wanderings. The tribes encamped around the tabernacle, both in order to stay close to the tent of meeting and to defend it during attack. The four sides are surrounded by the four groups led by Judah, Reuben, Ephraim, and Dan. The Levites, specifically chosen to be close to God, camped around all the sides. And how far was it from the Levites to the camps? They were told to keep 3,000 feet. 3,000 feet. You know, that's last night about this gal. She was born in 1927. She was 13 when they were taken to the ghetto, and she was 15 when they were removed, and she was separated from her parents, she and her sister. She was the youngest of three. She had an older brother and older sister. Her mother was 42 when she was born, and her older brother and sister were like 10 to 15 years older. And her brother committed suicide when the Germans started taking over. He couldn't handle it. The mother and father, when they were taken to the camp, they were immediately killed, and her and her sister went into the prison camp. But her story is that when they were separated at the prison camp, they put her parents on a bus, and they ran to the bus because they didn't want to be separated. Now, she was like 15, and her older sister was probably 20, about 7 years older. And they said one of the Germans got on the bus and said, y'all can't be on here. You can't go with your parents. You'll see your parents again. You need to get off the bus. But he said, her testimony was, he was real nice to us and said, don't worry, you'll see your parents again. Just don't get on this bus. And he got them off. And she said later, well, we found out later that they just took them over to the crematorium and burned them right there. And then later on, they're in an encampment, and they put them in a Jewish synagogue that they have where they got all these people together, and they're trying to figure out where they're going to go, and they're asking for volunteers, and so they volunteer. And the guy that's up, and the German that's in control is setting up at the front of the synagogue on the bema, where they speak from. And he calls them up and says, y'all don't need to volunteer. Y'all need to stay here. You'll be okay. He says he finds out later that this one person saves them from going to the crematorium with their parents. And this next one saves them because they're taking people out that volunteer. They just say, well, these people want to get killed, we're gonna kill them. But it's like at every turn, there's an angel that's preserving these two. I mean, she doesn't say it that way, but I'm listening to it saying, why were they, and they're in the prison camp, and it's getting towards the end, and they've got this murderous, mean commandant. And she said he stays drunk all the time, he treats everybody bad, but he comes in and he treats them nice and saves them a couple of times. And so they're gonna volunteer for this deal, and they look over at him and he goes like this. And so, said, the older sister, one of them said, why did you do this? And he said, because you're crazy if you volunteer for that. Those are the people that are gonna get killed. And he said, here was the mean, no good, rotten commandant saving their life. I mean, stuff like, I mean, she's given this testimony as if it was just, but it's miracle after miracle that preserved them. And I was just stunned. And if y'all ever want to see something that, I mean, it'll affect your life, you just watch some of those testimonies. What the people went through and how they survived.
Or visit a place.
Yeah, or visit. I mean, if you haven't been to a Holocaust museum, I mean, there's some in Dallas. There are places around where you can go. You know where the Kennedy assassination. There's a little Holocaust museum there that you can go to if you've been to. But anyway.
Thank God had his hand on those two.
Yeah. Oh, I put the big tabernacle up there. I have to repent later. Beg for
You better
forgiveness.
do that, you better start now.
Can't hardly read it. Join in the blessing.
Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth, Yeshua our Messiah, and set everlasting life in our midst. Blessed art thou, O Lord, giver of the Torah.
And in Hebrew.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, Yeshua Meshikenu, Bekai olam natah betekenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And I didn't do all the pictures of the great peace have those who love your law, nothing can make them stumble. The way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know what makes them wicked, but those who keep the Torah fight them. And if a person will not listen to the Torah, even his prayer is an abomination. And I heard David Jeremiah, we always have the radio that wakes us up on the channel that has the Christian music and stuff, and David Jeremiah was quoting this verse. If a person will not listen to the law, even his prayer is an abomination. And he didn't do it justice about what he said, but anyway, he did quote it and say, you know, if you're not living according to God's commandments, he's not going to listen to your prayer. And he did say that. So, yeah, that was a wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
A wow.
Did he insert the word moral just